start the program. Please text your loved ones and tell them that they won't be hearing from you for a while. And that sounds like an awesome situation, but you'll have to deal with it. But anyway, welcome to the National Stuttering Association Baton Rouge Chapter Open House. We thank all of you for taking the time out to come out and listen to our stories and whatnot. My name is Melvin Givens, and I'm a person who stutters. I stuttered for as long as I can remember. I've been in therapy multiple times over the years, and even though I still struggle with it, I figured that this year I try to do something different, try to be a little more outgoing. So that's why I volunteered myself to be the speaker or the host of this event. So let's this part started. Now, usually, Usually, for every meeting here for the NSA Baton Rouge chapter, we usually like to start every meeting by reading the welcoming words that you see on the screen right here. So here we go. Welcome. Welcome to the Baton Rouge chapter of the National Stuttering Association. The National Stuttering Association is a nonprofit organization dedicated to bringing hope and empowerment to children and adults who stutter, their families, and professionals who support education, advocacy, and research. We who stutter and those who support and help us are not alone. Together we are strong, Armstrong. And basically, NSA, we are a support group for people who stutter, because out there in the world, there are people who stutter who don't even know that the NSA even exists. And so they are suffering their problems and thinking that there's no one else like them. So the NSA wants to spread to as far as possible so that these people don't have to be alone anymore. And yes. Oh, and also we have a family chapter of the NSA, which is for children from the ages of 7 to 17 who stutter, and their families as well. So if you know any children who stutter, point them our way. And as a matter of fact, the person in charge of the family chapter is back there, Shanley. Just want to wave my hands. And they usually meet every first Monday of the month. So if you want to come by one of their meetings, you can. And there's their email address right there to get more information. Or you want to speak to Shanley in the back, you get more information that way. But so now for tonight's event, we have a panel of people who stutter. I will ask them questions so as to allow the people to get a little more insight into their lives and stuttering. I'll ask them questions, and they will give more insight into their lives and how stuttering has affected them and whatnot. And so the panelists are Dr. Geoff Coalson, Leon Buford, Gavin Breaux is not here, unfortunately. She couldn't make it. But Gavin Breaux and Ian Trimble. Now, before we actually start with the questions, we will give each panelist a chance to talk a little bit about their backstories and how stuttering has affected them. And so, starting off with the list, Dr. Coalson.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm actually going to shake things up a bit and not go first, because a lot of you have heard me talk quite a bit in class. But I do want to say one thing first. There's going to be it's a housekeeping thing, it's not monumental stuff, I'm going to tell you. There's 2 sheets that are going to be coming around here soon. Sign your name. So if you're a student, there's going to be a special sign-in sheet just for you. If you're not a student, please put your name on that list if you'd like to get emails from the NSA, and we can learn more about you. But I'm going to skip and let Leon have the mic and go first, and I'll come in towards the end.
Yeah, hey everybody, how's it going? So my name is Leon Buford. I'm 33 years old. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. As you can tell, I stutter. I'm a senior operations analyst for an insurance company. I've stuttered all my life. As you can tell, there's a lady that has my last name. She's actually my mother. She was supposed to come here today, but unfortunately she had a family emergency. Because you see all the panelists are male. But I'm sure you all know most stutters are male, so it kind of is, it's not really the best representation, but it is true though. I've stuttered all my life. I also have a great uncle that stutters and an uncle that stutters as well. Stuttering for me has been a challenge, more so a self-esteem challenge where I just compare myself to other people a little bit too much and not realizing that there are gifts that I have that I was given that I tend to not look at, and it's just I'm spending too much time comparing myself, and I'm realizing that as I get older, that it's not a good way to actually look at life, because you can always see somebody in a worse situation. And I'm just glad that we're able to actually have these events to kind of let people know that stuttering is not a death wish. It's something that it's just like anything else, is a challenge, but you can still be a person that can give value to people, and you can be inspirational. And hopefully these events can actually do that.
Hello, is this on? My name is Gavin Breaux. I'm 23 years old. I've been, ever since I can remember, as a child, I've had a stutter. I think everyone on this panel can relate. Just growing up as a child who stutters, you're told a lot. Well, as a child who stutters, you face a lot of challenges. As a kid, just in general, you face a lot of challenges, and just going through school, meeting friends, and everything like that. But adding in the fact that you have a stutter can definitely kind of affect, like we said, your self-esteem and kind of how you look at yourself. And that being said, I like to think that I've grown a lot from being a child who stutters. And honestly, I'd say around this time last year, I actually sat in that very back corner, and it was the first time I actually was introduced to the NSA, and I wasn't even aware that this was a thing. And so just being here today is kind of set a goal for myself to try to do this, and then kind of things just fell into place to where it happened, and I'm very grateful to be here. I'm looking forward to sharing my story, and thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ian Trimble. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, 4 years old. Lived in Baton Rouge, has now for about 6 years. Also have a history of a family member who also had a big stutter. It was my uncle on my dad's side. Like many of these panelists, speaking wasn't easy. It was difficult with some of the therapy that I had in the 80s and 90s. and I hope that you get a lot out of this event. Thank you.
And I'll go last. I know a lot of faces in the crowd, but not all of them. I'm Geoff Coalson. I stutter and I teach at LSU in the Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders. And my area of interest is stuttering and how it and our attempt to understand it and how to best address it in treatment. Those are more of my demographics. Now, the story is long-winded, which you may or may not want to hear. I would say that it's interesting to hear people on the panel at different stages in this, at different ages too, because it's such a personalized journey, and part of the reason I value this whole event is that you can't consider people who stutter to be just a monolith. There's people who are very new to the idea of stuttering, and there's people who are very evolved in the way they think about stuttering, but they're all true stories. And I see a lot of myself and the people on the panel and in the future as well, just in terms of aspiration. I grew up in Texas. I stuttered apparently when I was 30. I was told. I don't remember this. Went through a variety of treatments all through my life. I got into college and thought I should probably start doing more research into this. I'm going to do that so I can make it my job. And I did. And now students have to hear me talk all day. So I guess I win. And I do win actually. I enjoy the opportunity to share information, but also just the idea that I'm doing it every single day is a check of one column for me. And the fact that we're all doing this today as hosts for the first time, let's give them a round of applause. And just the promises kept to ourselves to be on the panel for the first time or once again. I think it's a great opportunity. I can't wait to hear more.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. You're going to make me blush, Geoff. But with that out of the way, now it's time for the questions. So question number one. If there was a magic pill that cures stuttering, would you take it? And who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Okay, so my initial answer was yes whenever I first started this, but I think it depends on like how I explain to some individuals. So it's like if the pill itself cured it forever, and it's like if I didn't have the experience that I have, but then if I can take it, all that's gone away, then no. Because I feel like by me having my stutter, it kind of makes me who I am, and it's kind of giving me the outlook that I have on my life. But that being said, if there was like an Advil version where like I could just take it and not stutter for 2 hours, that would be pretty cool. But just in general, if it was like either yes or no, I would have to say no, because as much as it's a challenge and like it could be seen as a crutch, it could be an asset, and I think it makes you you. So that's my answer.
Okay, sure. I'll go second. Yeah, this was a very tough question for me as well. Like some of the panelists, it'd be great if I never ever had a speech impediment or a stutter. Life would have been a whole lot easier, trust me, especially in grade school, high school, going to restaurants, talking on the phone, back when we had landlines. That pill would have been incredible. It would have saved me so much mental stress, for sure. And but you know, like others, being a person who stutters, it'll teach you empathy. It'll teach you, you know, to have grit. It teaches you to be strong. You know, all great qualities and assets. So it's definitely you know, a mixed bag. Even to this day, there's some days where I'm like, yeah, it'd be great if I know I'm having a rough day, or if I know this day, you know, might be me speaking to new people or having to speak, or I would say, yeah, like that totally be awesome. But I don't think I would take it. Yeah, I just don't think I would take it like you said. It's mainly who I am, and I like who I am. You know, even though I like to stutter, it doesn't define me. And again, my attitude has changed a lot since I was a kid, since I was a teenager, you know, tween, young adult. Yeah, so my answer is like, I would not take the magic pill.
To be honest with you, first thing I have to ask is that, are there any side effects? Because you already know every time that you take a pill, there's crazy side effects. I'm like, I don't know if I want to, like, I stop stuttering and then like I start like having problems, like having kids or something like that. I don't know. To be honest with you, well, I'll say this, I'll clarify. As far as like taking away the stutter, no, I would never take a pill to do that, because I feel like, first off, I don't see it being possible. I really don't see that happening. Now, I would take a pill to take away the shame of stutter, or take away like how I feel about it. I would take a pill for that, because I feel like that's part of my problem, is that I still have this shame associated with it. And it's not really from the outside, it's from the inside. It's just something in me that, like I said, I compare too much, and that's just something I have to work on. But I feel like, as far as like a pill, no, I wouldn't take one, because I mean, I'll share a little story with you. They actually had a trial for a anti-anxiety medication called Paclitaxel. They were actually doing like a clinical test for it. And I did a trial in New Orleans for it. It was, I think it worked, but to be honest with you, I don't like to feel like I have to have a crutch. It's like one day I just don't take my pill and I just have a horrible day. I'm gonna hate myself. It's like I'd rather just not even like deal with it. I'd rather just like deal with it without it. And that's kind of how I feel about it.
Kind of along the same lines, I think it's always going to depend on the day that you ask me this question. I think earlier today, I had the same conversation, a lot. And I think I just blurted out, yeah, of course, everything. And I think that's a betrayal of who I am. I would usually say I wouldn't, but it's, you know, in that dream world, yeah, sure, I would take that. But I also try to go a step further, like so maybe if there was a pill that could do something else, like if I could take a pill to confirm that the listener simply didn't care in some way. Like if there was a pill to be able to look into the brain and know, they don't actually care. That would probably be of as much value. And to what you said, if there was a pill to just take away the concern about stuttering, would that be equally helpful? And they certainly have anti-anxiety medications. I've certainly tried them. They also have side effects, but they don't get rid of the stuttering. But I can see taking medication that can alleviate the anxiety that's related to it. As long as there's no misperception, it's going to stop stuttering. Long-winded story, but it's more just, what are you trying to solve with this? because there's more than one problem, I think.
Okay, yeah, I think I'll answer this question myself, actually. I think my answer kind of echoes a little bit what Gavin said, because yeah, with stuttering, there are a lot of bad experiences that come with it, but because of those experiences, and because I stutter, I was able to I wouldn't be able to to meet the people back in the day, like these people up here. Well, actually, I met Ian just today, actually. But yeah, if it wasn't for my stuttering, I probably wouldn't know as many people as I did, because I'm not exactly the most social person in the whole entire world. So I'll say, for now at least, my answer would be no. So that's kind of my answer. But for the next question, question number 2, how do you interpret the concept of acceptance?
So the idea of acceptance gets a bad rap. People think acceptance is resignation, that you are just giving up, throwing in the towel, don't care anymore. And that's not how I interpret this question or that term, but I think a lot of people approach it and get very, very nervous that that's what is being suggested. Just give up and stop. That is not the end point, and that is not the point. The point is you stop trying to fight it. And the more you push against it, the harder it's going to push back. And it can feel like the right thing to do if there's a problem. You push harder, but if you can get to the point where you can tolerate and accept not just a moment of stuttering, but just being a person who stutters, that gives you such a different mindset about how you go through your day. And if you're going to put it in terms of clinic, I don't know how you can move forward in clinic without this initial first step. That's my interpretation of the whole idea of acceptance, but I'm sure that people who don't have that perspective.
So acceptance for me is just, I guess, having self-confidence, just understanding that there isn't anything wrong with me, I guess, per se, and that the way that I was made by God, or whatever genes I inherited, it is what it is. I mean, acceptance to me is like playing a game of poker, right? And you just have cards, and they're all like cards, but I just I have to live with them. I don't have a choice, and it's just one of those things where I guess for me, like, as Geoff was saying, it's not just accepting, I guess, not that you're going to get better with your speech. Because even for me, like, my speech has not always been the same. It was a lot worse when I was younger. As I got older, it got a little bit better. I don't know if it's just because I stopped caring as much, the anxiety went down a little bit, but I think you have to, like, make a decision on how you feel about acceptance and what that means. Because I guess the most important thing is just having a better perspective of life and a quality of life in general.
Okay, so whenever I first read this question, I was actually talking to my mom, and she kind of looked at it from a different perspective. And so I didn't know if it was more like, what's my own definition of acceptance, or if it's looking for acceptance in others whenever it comes to your stuttering. Because I think both are important. But I'd say if you're looking for acceptance in others, then, like, if you're going to answer that question, then I think it's more of, you can't force anybody to accept you for you. You can only do your best. And if that individual can't, then that really just shows more of their true colors than yours. But going back to your own definition of acceptance, that's something I've definitely had to come to terms with in the past year or so. I'll say it's just more like by me finally accepting that it's not that I didn't, it's that I didn't dwell on if I did or I didn't whenever I was younger. Like I didn't focus any attention on it. And then it got to the point to where I couldn't help. That's the only thing I thought about anytime I talked to somebody was how that person's perceiving whatever it is that I'm saying. And I think it's a very, you have your own definition, and I think it's going to be different than anybody else on this panel or just in general. And so I think it's important that you come up with your own definition of acceptance. And like what you're saying, it's not admitting defeat. It's not you giving up. It's you, coming to terms that, look, this is the situation, but also like understand that one thing things could be worse, and try to look at it in a positive outlook instead of like dwelling on the negative aspects of it.
So that's a great interpretation. I hadn't, the 3 years after that question, I didn't think of those two.
Well, yeah, but honestly, I think it's hello? So anyways, I was honestly just talking to my mom, and then she's like, well, are they talking about like your, like other people accepting you, or like your own definition of acceptance, like mentally, like you being able to accept that not only you have a stutter, but like, cause again, it's more of like if I explain the whole thing, I didn't really go too much into detail with my story, but it's like my stutter affected me a lot whenever I was younger, and then in high school, it kind of did, but I didn't really dwell on it. And then as I got older, and I had to come to terms with the fact that, like, because as a kid, you're told, like, oh, like, you're a kid, you're hyper, just slow down, just think about what you have to say. And you're told all these things, and then you're also told, like, don't worry, when you're older, like, things will get better. And then I was 21 years old, I just moved to Baton Rouge. I had somewhat of a network of friends, but just, exposing myself to new things and just like introducing myself to new people, that's like one of the most terrifying things to do as a person who stutters. And so I just went through a lot of changes at that time, and it almost came down to the point to where, like, yeah, I found the NSA, but I also think the NSA found me, because I finally looked up the information and was interested in it, but I had no idea that, any of this even existed. And so I'm kind of grateful that, even though at the time it was very stressful and it was like a very hard thing to go through, that if I wouldn't have went through that, I wouldn't be kind of right here talking to all of y'all. So again, I could ramble, sorry. This is the city I'll take it.
Military forces.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's a great answer. I had never thought about acceptance that way either. For me growing up, I refused to accept that I stuttered. I refused to like deal with it. I would do anything I could to avoid it. Like I would say, this is not me, this is not my life. I do not accept this lot that I've been given in this life. I would do anything I could to like not accept it, and that meant not speaking or avoiding situations, all the tricks of the trade, not participating in class, even though I would know the answer. I would do anything, to say like, I don't accept this. I don't accept that I stutter. Like, no, this is not real. This is not me. But then, with time and different types of therapy, I guess maybe when I was 24, 25, I was still battling it. My stutter, had changed, just like you said. Yeah. And that's one of the odd things, is that your stutter can, it can change physically. It can change, maybe a different tick you have to like get the word out. So, and mine got so bad, that I said, no, I will not accept this. I can't accept this. But I did find, a different type of therapy. For me, it was, looking for a speech therapist who also stuttered. That to me was a godsend. It wasn't Geoff, it was Dr. Tim Mackesy in Atlanta. But again, I thought, wow, if he can do it, or if he can have a practice with speech, speech pathology, then anything is possible. He must have accepted something, So, but for me, once I started to talk with him and go through my story, explain it with Tim, he taught me it was the mental thing. It was all mental, and to basically say, it's not the world. It's not me versus them. It's me versus me.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
it.
very personal.
Yeah.
It's like you're in your head a lot.
Yeah.
You're hypersensitive to everything.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead.
And just so that mentality, so that's like the hero mentality. I mean, like, I'm not gonna accept this. I'm gonna beat it, and I'm gonna try as hard as I can to beat it. And that feels like what you should do, right? And I get trumpeted a lot, and for good reason. I mean, it's a very courageous way to go through. And the more I get through life and stutter, and the more I see people who stutter, I'm like, what's more courageous? I mean, I say to say this, but I mean, hearing that is going through life with that mentality is almost unfair. Because there are some things, like, what if it doesn't change? Then what? Then I just haven't tried hard enough? Because you're trying as hard as you possibly can. And I think that gets tricky. I mean, it kind of goes up against the American flag of being brave, but it's almost, how long can you hit your head against the wall until you start to pull back and like, okay, this is hurting. And then trying to re-embrace, okay, so if I can just live with the idea that I might not be able to overcome this, I might be able to make some progress in a different way. And that's a trickier thing, because everyone's proud of you if you're trying to punch your way through it, but you don't get that response if people feel like you've given up. And it's a critical point to distinguish between for the word acceptance. That's right.
Yeah. So to add to that, I think for me, like with age, it became easier for me. It became, I guess, I mentioned before that like comparing yourself is not a good thing, but I'm not trying to like, I guess, like go back on what I said, but or to like go and basically contradict myself. But sometimes you have to focus on things that you are good at, because even when I struggle stuttering, there are things that I'm good at that I'm naturally good at. Like for example, I'm good at actually going and like as far as programming, I can program very easily. Like it's something natural for me. And people that don't stutter, they don't have that same gift. And it's just one of those things where sometimes you just have to, I guess, learn to make progress, but to look back at, it's almost like you're climbing a mountain, right? And you're climbing up the mountain over and over again. And you keep looking up and you keep saying, wow, I have so much more to go. But when you turn back around and look at what's behind you, you will see how much further you actually are. And I think most people, they're looking at that goal so much that they're not looking back and saying, hey, I did so much. Even if I don't overcome it, my attitude is different. How I feel about it. I mean, just even small changes in my speech. I'm not as anxious as I used to be. Saying my actual name is easier. I mean, just small victories. I think people need to just understand that it's not like I said, it's not a death sentence. But everybody has struggles. Everybody has things that may not be so visible to see, but some people's struggles are more internal. That they're a lot deeper, and some of those things doesn't work for that too. So it's just a thing where I feel like you just have to be a little bit more understanding that you are human. You are going to be imperfect, but you can keep working on yourself. And every day that you have on this planet, in my opinion, you can become a better person.
I got nothing. Next question. Question number 3. What are your experiences in speech therapy? Good, bad, or otherwise? What advice would you give to clinicians?
Let's see, I'll go first. All right, cool. So my first examples with speech therapy was, it must have been grade school. I would go to a speech therapist after school, and we would sit in her room, and we would speak with a metronome. You know, the thing that just goes back and forth, back and forth. So I thought this was what speech therapy was, and it would just be talking like this with a metronome for 1 hour. And you would do that in therapy, and my mom would say, "How was therapy?" And I'm like, "It was good. It was good. It was fine." But it didn't really, do anything, outside of that environment. But I didn't know any better, and I'm sure the SOP, was doing what she thought was right. There was no ill will. I just thought this was speech therapy. And then, let's see, and I didn't really have much, I guess from like 6th to 7th or 8th grade, but in high school, I would have speech therapy. I would be pulled out of the classroom, and it would always be, it'd be weird to be pulled out every couple of weeks for speech therapy, because it's like, why does Ian get to, skip the test or leave class? But I would be, happy, because it meant, hey, I'm going to talk in class. This is awesome. But the speech therapy at that time, again, it was just me practicing, talking slower or reading slower, just reading paragraphs for an hour. And again, in that environment, fine, I could speak fluent. There was no real issues at all with my speech. Again, in that setting, it was just reading paragraphs. Nothing to it. And then in probably about 1998, my mom, was doing some research, and she found out about this program. I think it's East Virginia. It was the PFSP. If you guys don't know, it was the Precision Fluency Shaping Program. This speech therapy was all about relearning phonics, from A to Z. It was basically on the mechanics of, how your mouth works, glottis, everything to it. It was a 2-week thing where you would sit in a room probably about the size of this, for 8 hours a day, and you would talk into a microphone, and you would do your hardest to not make the light come on. It's like some Pavlov's, it's like some this mad science experiment. But basically, you relearn how to talk, but you have to learn how to talk without putting any type of pressures. So basically, you relearn the alphabet, but you relearn to speak in very soft and very muted ways. Your whole idea was not to, make your diaphragm, work too hard or get too much air coming out. It was all about this controlled, mechanized speech. And there are tapes that I have, from the beginning to after. And the beginning, they interview you And it was cool because this was like the first time ever I had met people who stuttered. You know, it was the first time ever, and it was in a new place. It was super cool. That aspect was nice. But in the actual setting, again, we would just practice this mechanized speech and breathing. Like I would have to like say like I couldn't say like but you know, but it would have to be like or it'd be very soft and exaggerated. But again, if you saw tapes of me at the beginning and tapes at the end, you were like, this is a miracle. Like Ian's speaking, like he can speak, he has a voice. And it was crazy because I was working, you know, I was working at a grocery store, working in the dairy section, you know, didn't require, you know, that much talking, just like, you know, milks here, eggs are here, you know, basic stuff that you could repeat. But, you know, at the end of it, they would record you, and they would like, I remember saying, you know, thank you, you saved my life. This is incredible. I feel so good. I'm so happy. I'm so happy with my new speech. And that's how I talked. And that fluency lasted probably maybe like 1 week. But then, boom, my stutter had changed. Whereas before it was this, you know, repetition like, you know, full physical body manifestation stutter. But it had changed because as we learned these new techniques, it had changed to more of a block, you know, where you go to talk and then you stop because you were fighting with yourself trying to get the word out. So again, I was like, oh no, I messed up. I was going to give the speech and I messed it up. So again, it was the internal blaming myself. So this same center, they had refresher courses. So I went to sign up for the refresher course, and these weren't cheap, you know, school, these cost a lot of money. So I went back. Again, it was more of a quick version, you know, of that. And again, in that environment, you know, it was relaxed, it was controlled, I was fluent. But again, once the outside real world hit, it's like, boom, there it goes again. So that was like kind of gut, like a big gut punch. So it lets you know more of the depression, thinking like, what's wrong with me? Why have I been given? Why can't I just talk? Or, you know, I can talk, but then I lost it. Like twice, like you've been given a gift or you beat cancer twice, then you got cancer right back. So it was pretty heart-wrenching with that type of therapy. And then, you know, like I said before, I went to therapy when I was about like 26, and I said, you know, enough's enough. You know, I gotta do something. And that therapy it didn't really focus, you know, on the physical speech patterns or your mouth or your muscles or your breathing. It was all about what Gavin, you know, he taught me like new phrase. It was exposure, you know, therapy, and my SOP was a big component of that, and it was just basically, you know, start small, but put yourself out there. Just start to speak up, you know, just speak up. Start with small things, and then that's what I did. I would actively, I would actively, you know, practice. Yeah, I would actively,
I promise.
Yeah, so, you know, one thing he would do for me was basically, we would write down every single thing that I was, you know, that I couldn't say. And of course, the speech, the list is 200 pages because, you know, you can't say anything, or every letter is a problem letter, or every phrase is a problem phrase, or your name is a problem phrase. So we would, you know, talk about that. And one thing he would say is like, Ian, you know, let's just start small. He goes, I'll tell you what, why don't you just, you here's a phone book. I'm like dating myself, but here is a phone book, and just call random numbers and ask to speak to Ian, because I would be terrified, just to say my name. I would.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's scary to just start a conversation, but also if you have trouble with your name and kind of expose yourself.
Yeah. Yes, I would do anything to avoid my name. I would my name is Mr. Trimble, or my name is it would be anything I could. So it would be practicing that, and then like I said, it would be practice going through the drive-through, because as a person who studied, it'd be frustrating to no end when you want to order something, but you couldn't order what you wanted because you couldn't say it. So you got to substitute at the last minute, and you'd this sucks. But I would practice doing that. And again, it was just kind of lots of immersion therapy, but just putting myself out there, to make myself more vulnerable. So I thought that type of therapy, was I thought that's what really worked for me for the most part. And then I did more and more challenging things, again and again, just to keep kind of pushing myself. So I said I had that small win. Let me try something bigger, and then I kept doing more and more things, just to keep speaking more and more. So that's kind of what I thought about therapy.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, so
That's right. I got to answer this question. As I said before, for multiple years I have been in speech therapy, and I say they were good good for the most part. And for the speech pathologists out there, they had to do common techniques like the airflow, cancellation technique. I think the pause. Well, anyway, they had to do certain techniques that you guys probably learned in class. But when I was in Southern, they kind of had me do a couple other unique exercises. One of those was tongue twisters. As you guys know, with stutterers, a lot of times we are kind of stuck repeating the same syllable over and over and over again. So to a tongue twister, it kind of sounds like a nightmare. By seashore by seashore. Stuff like that. But even though it was a tongue twister, for some reason, I was kind of able to do it a little better than some of the other people that didn't stutter. So with that, I guess my advice would be, if you're a speech therapist, don't be afraid to experiment with your with your therapy, because you never know what results you will get. Break the mold, and so yeah.
Okay, so my personal experience is kind of like the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Honestly, all the information you shared was very useful for me, because I've done, so whenever I was in school, I think like 4th to 5th grade, like what you're saying, I had like a speech therapy through the school that I was with. I was like me and 4 other students, and kind of the same thing. You just go through it. You kind of practice trying to pronounce different sounds and everything like that, and then you technically graduate. And then that in itself is kind of like a misleading thing, because again, as a kid, if you're told oh, you'll get over this, and then you technically graduate from your speech therapy, then you're kind of convinced oh, look, I did it, blah, blah, blah. And then kind of all through high school, even whenever I started college, how I mentioned, I didn't really dwell on my stutter. Definitely still had it, definitely still noticed it, but it didn't bother me to the extent that it did kind of in the later years. And so whenever I actually found the NSA, because I had trouble with my insurance trying to find a speech therapist that's under the network of my insurance. And I finally found one. And I did like an introduction. I went to do like a sit down. You kind of just, just share basic information and everything. And they decide if they're going to be able to like set up a plan, or like a kind of this type of, almost like a lesson plan basically, but like a personalized one. And then what I found more was I needed more of like just like therapy, and like being able to just speak about the anxieties and just the stresses of having a stutter than the actual mechanics of like how to pronounce certain words, or like how to go about like the different types of stuttering. Like that's one thing I'm not, like even being up here, that's the one thing that I was kind of not necessarily afraid of, but like I can't really speak from the same experience that I'm sure all these other individuals have, because I haven't really participated in that much therapy. But the therapy that I did participate in, I enjoyed just like the open conversation of it, and just being able to put yourself out there, feel like you're not being judged. I think that's just therapy in general, that it's very useful. And I'll say even with the NSA and the speech studies that I've done at LSU, it's kind of that same world, to where like I got somewhat of the experience in that, and I think it's very useful, and I think it's very informative if you're interested. So, I'm sure everyone has their own personal experience, but I can't really state that I've had like any negative experience.
So I'll say that this has been historically, because I talked to the class after this, this is historically the most depressing question for the students in the room, because all they hear is,
all these negative things.
right, like it's all awful. So the idea is not to bum you guys out, it's really just to recalibrate what we do in therapy. And yeah, I don't know, I didn't really went to Holland.
Yes.
Yes. Twice.
Twice.
And then metronome, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. I'm just going to springboard off that in terms of, it's not hard to get flown in a closet. It's really not. You're not earning your paycheck if you get flown right there. It lasts for a little bit, then it tapers away. I think any treatment that ties your willingness to speak to the likelihood that you'll be fluent is going to set them up to fail. So any therapy that makes the only acceptable outcome, the only acceptable condition to interact fluent speech, it's just it's unfair. I would argue that any therapy should start with improving the willingness to speak regardless of fluency. You can push the fluency goals down the road, but if you lead with the onsets and the very minor changes that you have to make, you're putting the cart before the horse. And that's the only way that you're allowed to speak. Then every day, like you said, you're like, oh, I messed up again. I mess up every single time I open my mouth. I mess up every single day. That is not a good way to do therapy. Any type of therapy. So just to just increase their willingness to speak regardless of fluency, that to me, that's the type of therapy that I received that I was the most successful with, and I didn't like it. I was not a compliant client. I said, no, your job is to fix me. Your job is to not tell me how to feel about this. I misinterpreted the power of SLP, as did they. So if you can have that negotiation, have that conversation with the person across the table, be like, look, we can make you fluent, but what happens if you're not? You need to have a plan B. Perhaps that plan B needs to be a plan A, and then you get to the plan B later. You can have the option of going through there. But I cannot conceive a really successful plan that's going to generalize outside of the clinic too long without the overall guts to go out and change how you speak, period, or just speak, period, because that's what you're really in there for. So I hope that gives you a glimpse into where we're going, this is my class, so where we're going with this, and why can't we have these conversations first in the clinic? Why can't these be the things that we talk about first? These are questions that are real, and they can be opened up to the table, and you'll get to the point where, well, here's what we actually need to work on, and it's not so much perfect flows, and maybe that will come in some gates. I'll hand off to anyone else.
To add to that, I totally agree with as far as what Geoff was saying. I think the most important thing is just, I guess, I'll be honest with you. I think one thing that a lot of SLPs do, hopefully I'm wrong about this, I think what they do is they try to solve a problem without understanding the problem. The problem is not going to be the same for everybody. Some people want fluency, some people want acceptance, some people just want to feel better. I think the first thing you have to do is you have to ask the client, hey, like, I guess, why are you here? Like, I guess, what is your point of being in speech therapy? And then you gotta see how they feel. And if they're reaching for the stars, just say, hey, well, that's fine that you're looking for that, but you need to reach for something a little bit more approachable first. And what I mean is that, I guess, just based on just having a mechanism to actually cope with. Because I think a lot of the times that, and I'll go ahead and I'll mention my experiences with therapy. I did therapy in elementary and middle school, a little bit in high school and a little bit in college. It was more of it was counting the actual number of disfluencies, but they were always in a closed environment. It was always where I was always just in a place where I'm going to be doing the same thing every time. So the anxiety that comes along with like meeting somebody new, the anxiety that comes with just normal life, I get used to it after a while. So the therapy itself is not even effective anymore. And I feel like really for me, well, I'll say this too, it depends on the age of the person in therapy. Because I think for children need to like learn the actual, some of the actual speaking situations and techniques. That is important, I think. But I think for people that are older, that they need to be put into situations where they have anxiety, where they feel like they like panic, and learn how to find ways of like handling those situations. Because I mean, even for me, like even now, like I have a hard time introducing myself to people. I have a really hard time doing it because just saying my own name is difficult some days. And the anxiety comes with the fact that you see me differently, or you think I'm stupid, or you think something because of how I talk. But everything else that come out of my mouth after that is perfectly fine. Everybody's different. Everybody has different triggers, and I feel like you need to kind of, I'm not gonna say look at it from that person's perspective, but like ask them exactly what they want to do. And because even with children, like if they have parents, just ask them, hey, are there any particular situations that your child has anxiety or they avoid? Because avoidance, I mean, it's a natural thing. People that are not non-stutterers avoid, but avoiding it makes it more difficult because you're like, it's like a video game. If I'm fighting these little characters where I can beat them easily, when I get into a boss fight, I can never beat them because I'm not actually. I'm not gonna prepare myself for something that's gonna happen eventually. And I think you need to kind of like cater those situations to the actual person itself. And it's okay to like not be perfect with it. It's okay to like be wrong sometimes. But like take every client, every experience, and then try to take that knowledge and then apply it to other people. Because I think the way the world works is that even if something is not effective for somebody, it may be effective for somebody else. And that feedback, it can ultimately bring a bigger knowledge to the actual pool and help everybody else in general.
okay. And it got a nice thing out a little bit. And I was able to use the podium to kind of hide from you guys. But I think we'll make this the last question. So number 4. What was your most embarrassing stuttering moment? I think I'll answer this one first. So back when I was in high school, I became the valedictorian. But as many of you guys might know, if you're a valedictorian, you gotta give a speech. And so I had to give my speech at the Southern University mini dome. And as if you guys have been in the mini dome or at game nights or anything like that, you know the mini dome is filled with people all around you. So imagine a stutterer having to give a speech with eyes peering at him from all angles, as if this magnifying glass with light just shining on you from all angles, just peering at you, all angles and everything. And so, at first I was doing well with my speech, but then I kind of just stopped. I froze, and for the life of me, I could not get out any more words, and just did. And still, a whole crowd of people, surrounding me, watching me do this, a horrifying experience. But luckily, my classmates, they just gave me a standing ovation. So that kind of, it kind of took away, me having to finish the whole speech. But but yeah, to this day, it's kind of one of those things where I kind of wish I was able to finish that speech. But it's just one of those life regrets, I guess. But that's me.
So mine's also kind of speech related. I was in a speech class in high school, and we had to do, I think it was like a 5-minute speech, whatever. And I was like halfway through it, and it's like, okay, so especially when it's like trying to explain it to individuals who don't stutter, it's kind of hard to articulate in a way where like it makes sense. But it's like, not only am I thinking about what I'm saying right now, but I'm also anticipating what I'm going to say next and how everyone is perceiving what I'm saying. So that being said, that's kind of how I was in any type of public speaking thing. So very hypersensitive about like how people's reactions. And I kind of got distracted in the middle of the speech, completely went blank. And I know we've all done this, where you just kind of say something under your breath. But I did realize I didn't say it under my breath. I said it as loud as I could, and I basically I don't want to say it because I don't know, whatever, but definitely was an awkward moment. Everyone in the class was like everyone's mouth was open, and then I was like staring directly at the teacher when I said it, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I think just restart. You just give me a 10 points off. Let's just redo this whole thing. And luckily she was understanding, and I ended up being able to restart the presentation and everything. But yeah, that was definitely an embarrassing moment. But also looking back on it, it's pretty funny compared to other embarrassing moments that might be more negative experiences. So.
I was going to say, your high school crowd was a lot nicer than my high school crowd. Mine did not give me a nice standing ovation, but probably one of my most embarrassing periods was when we had this like presentation theme here, but I had to give a presentation. I was doing it with my best friend, and it was called, what are role-playing games? And it was basically to give a presentation about, what they were. This is back before those things were cool. This is this is like 94, 93. They were not that cool what they are now. You were seen as a weirdo. But so we had to give PowerPoint. PowerPoint was like still pretty new, and it was. But me and Patrick were, savvy with a computer, so we made the most beautiful, presentation. We had transitions. We had some video in it, sound. This thing was pretty impressive, and it all fit on one floppy disk. You know? But so, you know, of course, giving presentations, you know, freaking out the whole time, just nervous, just counting down the days. You know, and then I think the day of, you know, just felt mentally exhausted because it was like, Gavin, your whole time is spent anticipating how it's going to be. You're praying it's going to be fine, but you're just anticipating and like projecting, you know, the worst. So you got all this going on. You're like physically drained. You're mentally drained. But then I found out this was actually going to be behind a like lectern with the microphone in the library with maybe like 70 or 80 kids, and it was going to be on the screen, you know, because it was being recorded and taped live. So, you know, I was having this like meltdown kind of on the inside, kind of like crazy panic attacks, you know, like just, you know, it's like, oh no, here, I was like, I got up there, it was like, here we go. And, but basically, yeah, it was like a 5-minute presentation probably turned into like 25 minutes, and it was like, I don't know, like 10 or like 12 page slide deck. So it was just like time stood still, and I just could not get out of this. Like nothing was coming out, or if it did, you know, it'd be me stuck in the same word for like 1 minute, and then looking up or looking away, just not wanting to look at the crowd. It was just pure shame on the inside. It was pure shame, like, oh my gosh. And then finally at the end, finally got through it, and like I said, there was no applause. It was like lots of uncomfortableness. Like there was like, oh man, this is like throwing the towel. This guy, you know, like it was rough.
Like a second-hand embarrassment.
Yeah. They felt bad. You know, it was a tough thing because these were my classmates. They didn't know how to, you know, react. You know. And a whole lot of folks, you know, don't know how to react. Your uncomfortableness makes them uncomfortable, you know, as well. And then when that got done, I think it was the next week we had to then critique the presentation. So then I had to rewatch it, and again I was like trying to just sink in the back of my, just sitting in a chair. Again, it was the same thing, like I'm saying, oh no, we're going to watch this, and then the board teacher, you know, they have to say something constructive and nice, but they were saying, hey, you know, I like oh, I like role-playing games. Good job on the role-playing games. I'm like, yeah, thanks, teacher. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot. But that was probably my probably biggest embarrassing moment. Yeah.
I can relate, for sure.
Honestly, it's not a single situation. It's a particular situation. There have been times where I'll go to a restaurant or to a fast food place, and I'll get hung up on words. Like the worst thing is like the drive-through. Oh man, like for me, when there's a lot of feedback and like in my ear, I cannot talk. And I've had people literally like I remember one time I went to school at Louisiana Tech University in Ruston, and there was a McDonald's I went to after a party one day, and I went to like order some food. And I was like stuttering so bad. Like she said literally like, she basically told me like I was playing around. Like she kept like joking, saying like basically like I should stop playing. I'm like, I'm not playing. I'm not. This is how I talk. And then when I talk to her, I'm like, this is how I talk. And like she was so embarrassed, I think, after she realized like I was really like serious. I mean, but it's like stuff like that. It's where I guess people are so ignorant, they don't really know. But it's not really, I'm not like a stutterer, like police officer or anything like that. I can't educate everybody on that. So it's one of those things where it's more like a moment type of thing, but I just have to just kind of like deal with it basically. But there's a couple situations I've had like that before.
So mine, I'm gonna punt on mine just because I can't be. I mean, I have moments, but that's a lot. I do wanna start like a second chance theater where like I want to hear the rest of the speech. I want to hear yours again, and I want to hear all these again. So you know, I have to live life not doing that. I think that's my personal goal. Mine's a bit more personal in the sense they were just two of us. In high school, I had a friend who was in a band, and it wasn't a big band, but he had his, he got his first gig. It was his band and another band, and it was the first band gig they had, but you had to go up to the front and tell them who you were going to go see, so that band would get the money. And the name of his band started with a sound I didn't want to say. And so I could choose to either like not give his band the money or and say the other band's name or stutter and get the money. And I chose the first one. I said the other band's name because I didn't want to stutter. Not knowing that he was in the front lobby, greeting all his friends that he had invited to come see him, and he was like, "I'm right here." And it just, I don't know, that one hurt. That one wasn't one back. But we're still friends, and I told him about that, but I don't think, I mean, just, you know, him not knowing that that's a thing that people who stutter do, I don't know that would have mattered, but at least it would have helped. But we do want to get to some questions and answers because that's a fun part of this too. So, yeah. So I think you have to play your talk show host and go out in the crowd now.
Yeah, wonderful. First question.
This thing dead?
I think we'll scream out.
Well, it's working.
Go. Okay, it's working?
Yeah.
Okay, so knowing what you know now, what advice would you to your younger self?
I don't know what to say for that. The advice that I would give myself would just to kind of not take things as personal. To like the outlook that I have now is completely different than I was when I was a kid. And I'm not saying I do think the reason why I think the NSA serves a very good purpose is because I like to think if I was a younger individual and if I would have found out about the NSA whenever I was a kid, it would have made a completely different impact on my life. Now that being said, I technically could maybe still be here today, but I'll have a completely different experience and a completely different story to share. But yeah, if I had to give my younger self some advice, it would just be to just, you know, roll with the punches, to, you know, to be grateful that, look, even though you're faced with, like what you said, like you're dealt these cards, and you can't change that, but also, like, to be able to look at your perspective and, like, don't compare it to others, but also acknowledge that things could always be worse, that whatever you're facing, whatever struggles you're facing, there's someone in a completely different state, including the country, that's facing twice as worse. To where if I had, it'd be a lot to tell my younger self, I'd probably be a little confused. I'd think, all right, this is a little too personal. But, because I didn't really care about it as a kid. But knowing what I know now, I would definitely try to share that with my younger self or just any younger individual that's, you know, interested in hearing.
Yeah, to echo up that, I would say the same thing. It was to stop trying to project my inner thoughts on what someone else is thinking. You know, that probably was the biggest thing to learn to do was not stop trying to project what I thought someone was thinking about me and about my speech.
The biggest thing I tell myself is when you're in situations where you want to avoid, you just don't avoid. Just face it head on. Even if I crash into the wall, it's still worth doing it, because fun thing about taking risks is that sometimes they actually pay off. And that's something that a lot of people, I guess they don't realize that, but it's true though.
I'd say I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Cool. First of all, I'll say, thank you all for being up here. I know how mentally draining, exhausting this can be. Probably only lock yourself in a room a couple of days afterward. That's what I would do. But my question is, so the person being a stutterer and, having, I believe missed out on some things in life because I was fearful, so I couldn't do it. Like, is there something that you regret? Like that you missed out on, that you didn't take that risk, that you didn't pursue, that if you go back over and do it again, would you know what you know now about, just accepting yourself? And if so, then currently, like what are you doing right now to go back, fix that, address that, or, like take those challenges or those steps that you may have been afraid of when you were younger?
So that's a good question, to be honestly. So I honestly find that I still deal with this on like a day-to-day basis. I've not necessarily let my stutter define like kind of what I do in my life, but I will say that certain jobs that I've had, certain places I've gone, or like just things that I've decided to do, have been influenced by my stutter. So for instance, I used to work in a restaurant, and I don't mind the customer service part. It's more of just like that anxious state always of like having to attend to all these different things, but also making sure that not only you're speaking fluently to this individual, but like, and it's kind of, it keeps going on. Like say if you start your shift, or like say just in general, like some days you have good days, some days you have bad days. And so, say if you're having a bad day and it starts off early, but then you keep kind of putting yourself in that situation over and over, it could be, like you said, mentally draining. But going back to what you said, this thing just died. Going back to what you just said, there are things that whenever I was younger, I definitely avoided, and kind of that's what I'm dealing with now, is kind of just like putting myself out, like the whole exposure thing. Like I really do believe, like even though I haven't really participated in a lot of like speech therapy, like clinical therapy, I do think just life experience in itself could be a therapy, to where some days I'll just be in a random place and I don't know anybody and it's terrifying. But then if I just have one just small little conversation, just ask someone how their day's going, and we just interact a little bit, that in itself kind of helps me change my perception on how I should go, or like how I think about others are perceiving me, to where, again, I'm very hypersensitive about my surroundings and kind of how people are, like what you're saying, not comparing yourself to others, but almost like anticipating what that person thinks of me. And so that being said, that's something I've definitely tried to work on, and like you said, not avoid as much, just kind of expose yourself to things, even if it's terrifying. And I really do think that's a powerful thing to do.
I'd say for me, probably like most of the people up here, I would avoid people or jobs that would require you to speak, even though I was qualified or often smarter. I would just avoid it. I would take, I would take the job of the bad boy or of the a bus boy, just so I would not have to, do like these up speaking situations. But no matter what I would do, someone, some good Samaritan would be like, or they would kind of, push me. So even though I would try to hide it or avoid it, someone, would make me speak, against my will. Or, someone would say like I was working on like the line, on like the sandwich line, just like you. And they said, Ian, Joe's not here today. Gonna need you on the microphone to call out the orders. And I was like, oh no, this is gonna be, oh no, but I dealt with it, like I'll give you an example of like the like crazy games that we play in our minds. Like it would say like, call out order number 51. I was like, I'm gonna have a problem with that F because I've had a problem with that before. Let me say, 5-1, or just something like that, But again, I did it the first time, and then I got on the microphone, did it a couple more times, and got better at it. But nowadays, as I've gotten older, I don't really avoid anything. I know I'm gonna stutter, but I don't let that stop me from not speaking.
Yeah. So I guess it's really going to go back to what I said earlier. It's just being a little bit more aggressive, just in general. Like just understanding that if you're good at something, like just show it, and your speech won't be a reason why you won't get hired, or it won't be a knock on it. If you're good at something, that's going to show. Because talk is talk, but action is action. It's just that. That's just something that I wish I would have kind of incubated some more like skills to. Like I guess not torpedo myself into a position or torpedo myself into something because I feel like I can't do it because of how I talk. Just understand that there are people that stutter in every profession. I think that's something a lot of children need to see. That they need to see that a lot of people that stutter are functional. They're extremely functional. It doesn't have to just be celebrities, because celebrities, I think, they always get all this praise, and it's like, that's one person, but I'm not going to say that those celebrities are not genuine, but I just think it's more realistic to look at people that you can talk to, that you can actually interact with, and you can actually interact with their children, and you have a chance to really have a personal conversation with them. I feel like we deify celebrities so much that we don't realize that there are other people here too that are just as good. They don't make as much money, but that doesn't mean anything in my opinion.
Yeah, mine, things I would do over if I could. So it's a death by a million cuts, right? There's all these little interactions that are one big moment, but just like the consistency, the relative consistency of all the interactions that you that may have gone bad, and that just confirm your thoughts about it. Now it's more about savoring the opportunity to have those again and get in front of it, and just looking the person right down the barrel and stuttering it out, and just inviting them to really do something. Not do something, but just like, so like, you have a question, ask the question. It's fine to ask a question. You're confused, I'll tell you what's going on. It's not I'm not getting back at people in the past because I can't, but it's more about the people in the future are kind of paying for their sins to some degree. And I get the opportunity to repair that, and that's really, it's not easy, and it's not something that is comfortable, but I enjoy the opportunity to prove I can do it again and do it a different way.
I kind of want to add to this. Well, aside from my speech in high school that I regret, there was another thing in high school that I regret. So there was a girl, and I had a crush on her ever since, when we were freshmen in high school. But I would always say, hi to her and whatnot, but nothing more. If I wanted to say more, I didn't. But then when we became seniors, she became, captain of the cheerleader squad and whatnot. And prom was coming around, and so, me and a group of us, we were out of town on a school trip. And one of my friends actually had her number, and so we actually called her from the hotel room, and I said something corny like, would you do me the honor of going out to the prom with me? And she said yes. But then the next week, I saw her again. I never spoke to her. I didn't talk to her. I didn't confront her or anything about it. I mean, I don't know if it was my stuttering or me just being nervous or anything, but even though she said yes, I never said anything about it. She never said anything about it, so it was as if it never happened. So I went to prom by myself, but I told myself, like I said, this year I was going to try to make some changes, in how I do things and be a little more outgoing. But if I could go back in time, I would tell myself, go for it. So yeah. So, does anyone else have any questions?
Did any of y'all participate in group speech therapy, and do you think that would have been beneficial?
I've been in group therapy a few times before, and I do say that I do enjoy that a little more than single, or just one-on-one therapy, because having another person with you that stutters, it kind of gives you that, camaraderie in a way, and it's kind of more fun, and that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, so in middle school and high school I did that. Yeah, I had group therapy. It was nice. I wish I would have stayed in touch with those people, because it was more like a stranger type of thing. It wasn't really a camaraderie. And I think the person that I was with, they were kind of like a covert stutter, so they didn't really want to admit it. So it was a weird thing. I mean, I'll say this: I don't believe that you can always group certain people together based off similarities. I mean, it's kind of shallow in a way. I mean, you can, but not everybody's going to be the same. So,
I don't think I had group therapy, but I did. Well, I took that back. In schools, you were largely in groups because that's how schools work. But there wasn't a group of kids who stuttered. There were kids who stuttered, but they didn't put in group. So really, the group therapy I got was I got older, and I was able to go to the NSA. It's not therapy, so technically it's non-clinical, not-for-profit. It's not, but it does add something that is very hard to simulate in the clinic. I don't think, even though I agree, I don't know if any of us would have necessarily gotten the same room together and hung out if we didn't have this one thing in common. And I think that speaks to the strength of shared experiences. And just knowing that, you're not the only one who's doing this, that can be valuable. And it's hard to, if I had to do a Sophie's choice and pick the NSA over therapy, I might pick the NSA. There's nothing against therapy. My preference would be both. That would be ideal, certainly, because like you said, the people who don't necessarily want to come to the NSA. It is hard to come to the NSA. It's hard to be a person who stutters. Once you walk in that door, you're a person who stutters. You're the one thing you never wanted to be. So I think some guidance can be helpful. but I didn't have that until later in life, probably from undergraduate, and that's when things started to take off.
Like I mentioned before, I don't have too much experience in therapy, but I actually participated in the study that it was a microaggression study, and that itself was kind of like a group setting to where, you know, it was kind of like the NSA basically, but it was more like structured questions and like people, you know, giving very, you know, descriptive and personal answers. But what you're saying, you know, in a way, you could treat like the NSA as like the type of group therapy, where like any type of other support group is just individuals that, you know, have similar, not necessarily challenges, but just perspectives. And that, you know, like for me, honestly, it was like what you said. The minute you walk in that door, you're the one thing you try to avoid. And you know, I didn't know anybody. And one of the most terrifying things to do is introduce yourself. And so even I appreciated how we went about it. It was like basically acknowledged that I was a new individual, but gave me the opportunity to decide whenever I'd like to, you know, speak and kind of just give a little backstory on like how I found the NSA, whatever. But you know, any type of just interacting with others and just like having genuine conversations and being open and being vulnerable, that in itself I feel like could be a form of group therapy. And I found that outside of the NSA as well. I think it's important to kind of have like your own sense of community, like either with your friends or like just a certain hobby that you have other individuals that also do that, and it just gives you that sense of like community. And that's what the NSA provides to me as well, is like that sense of community. And I was very thankful that, like honestly, I'm not sure how I went about finding the NSA, because I wasn't interested in finding it at all, and it was just more, I was on the internet and I found out that not only did it exist, that they had a Baton Rouge chapter, and that they meet every Thursday, the beginning of the month every Thursday. And the first time I walked in there, I was terrified, but the minute I left, I had this completely different experience, and almost like, not that I was upset that I didn't know about this before, and I even spoke with my mom about it, to where like she almost felt guilty that she wasn't aware about the NSA, or like the resources and outlets that they have. But that being said, like I don't regret that I didn't find it before. I'm just thankful that I finally did. So.
Yeah, like Gavin, I guess Dr. Coalson, I had no idea what the NSA was. Probably I learned about it when I was 35, I think. Yeah, I had no idea. Let's see, when I was in Holland, like I said, that was the first time I met people who stuttered, and we did have the same, shared experience. So it was great. I was like, okay, I am not alone, in this fight, and that was really wonderful. And it was interesting, for me, I guess on a personal note, because I got to see all different types of stutters, and again, different attitudes, the way everyone approached it,
Different stages as well.
Yeah, I'd say different stages, because I got in there and I saw people who were fluent, and also, it was difficult as well, because they would also put people in this in the setting who might have had cerebral palsy, so it was a mixture of different types of therapies. But I'd say, I did find the NSA when I was in Lafayette, and that was cool. So I then, went to one of the national conventions. I've been to two, And that was really eye-opening because it was like, wow, there's thousands of us. And the one thing that they say, is like, don't hide in your room, because just like you said, and Dr. Coalson said, like, you're finally admitting, yeah, I'm a person who stutters. And then you went under that environment, you see people who are proud of the fact that they stutter, and they don't hide it or like shy away from it. And the cool thing is if you're a first timer, right, that could be cool or like frightening, but like first timers, they give you a button or stickers as a first timer, and then you're overwhelmed with people who just want to talk to you, and then you have to talk to them. So I went to it twice, and each time it was really cool because you got to see young people, kids, older people, senior citizens, and you got to see this person's a doctor, this person is a rocket scientist, this person is this and that. It's like these people are just like us. So any type of limiting belief that you might have had, it's like, well, again, this is just me. This is not, and I have to change my own, thoughts, because I saw, just like you said earlier, no one cares, about how you talk. It's your skill set. It's what you know. And the NSA reinforced that for me.
So, one last question. Does anyone have a question?
So I'm sure this can't be generalized, but I'm just wondering, as listeners, for each of you, is there like mannerisms or attitudes of ours, or just things that we do when we're listening to you speak that would help you not project any negative attitudes, that true or not, that we may or may not be feeling?
Yeah, I can answer that. Really, like, I guess there's a look of like impatience. I can see somebody's eyes, face, and kind of see that. You're like kind of signed. You're like looking away. Sometimes when I get hung up on words, people will like look up, or it's like they don't want to draw attention to my stutter. But I'd rather you give me eye contact. I'd rather you like acknowledge that I'm in front of you, because I feel like that way. I'm not gonna say like it's a sign of disrespect, but it's almost like you don't see me as like I'm trying to talk, or it's a weird thing. I'd rather you like give me eye contact, or just sit there and just wait and just be patient.
I think the party line is don't interrupt us. Don't finish what we're gonna say. That doesn't help. That only helps you. That doesn't help the speaker. It may help the speaker on occasion, but it definitely helps you more than it does us. But in terms of nonverbal interaction, I would say, just maintain eye contact, look generally in the mouth area. That's where people look when they're talking to each other, and breathe. I mean, part of it is training you guys to desensitize stuttering too. Just learn to be comfortable with silence, and that's hard to do. It's hard for us too. That's why we try to make as much noise as we can in the moment of stuttering. It's ironic I'm giving you the same instructions that parents give kids who stutter. Just breathe and be patient. You'll get through it. Yeah. Just breathe and be patient and you'll get through it. Yeah.
So, like, if you're asking for like specific kind of mannerisms, or just like, I think it's more what they're saying, like, just to give like personal experience. It's more like I can tell, like, again, by me saying I'm very hypersensitive, I'm very like over aware, to where like if I'm having a conversation with someone and say if I'm stammering or I'm blocking or kind of just having trouble saying whatever I'm trying to say, the minute that I can tell that that individual isn't engaged in the conversation, then I'm completely uninvested. To where it's like, we talked about this before it started, that person can't comprehend how much time, how much mental effort that I'm putting into this conversation. And at the same time, you're not even giving me like your 2 cents or like any type of just respect by you either, like, it's not necessarily like breaking eye contact, because that's one thing, like, if you see me, I keep staring up here, because like, just trying to make eye contact, especially if it's like a personal conversation. Sometimes, like, I'll be trying to, and I just like, kind of glance over, so I don't really take that personal. It's just more of like, what you said, if someone interrupts me, if they try to finish whatever I'm saying, if I can just tell that you're being disingenuous, then I won't even give you the time of the day. That I'll just stop I've been in the middle of a conversation with someone, and either they mock my stuttering, or they mention it in a disrespectful way, and I'm like, look, this is over. Like, I was trying to say something, I was fully engaged in this conversation, I was trying to sit here and have a connection with you, but if you can't do the same thing to me, then it's not worth it. So that's the only thing I'll say, is just try to be respectful, because we're taking it way more personal than what you think. And that's something that me personally, I've had to, because I take a lot of things personally just in general, but that's one thing I've had to accept, is like, don't try to look at things. It's more like what I explained earlier, is like, I try to look at it from the other individual's perspective, and honestly, like, say if you have negative experiences, or like I can just tell you stories of just personal experience to where it really just shows that individual's true colors than it does mine. That if that person's never engaged with someone that has any type of, I'm trying to think, I don't want to say the disability, but any type of difference, any type of diversity, any type of abnormality, then they automatically assume, like what we were saying earlier, that you're either slow, that you aren't able to articulate what you're trying to say, that you're super nervous. And me, my anxiety definitely affects my stuttering. So that one, technically, I do play into the stereotype of that. But just in general, it's like, I try not to take things as personal. And if I had to give advice for other individuals who don't stutter, that you're interacting with someone who does, is to take it, like, look at their perspective, because we're trying to look at yours. We're looking at yours way too much, let's put it that way. So.
Yeah, it's funny what Gavin says, because it's weird, because we can be very hyper aware. It's like, we have like fly eyes. We see everything, and every micro tick in your face, or every little slight expression, because we're thinking like 2 million miles an hour. I'll give you an example though of something that happened to me where I was taken aback. It was I had just started at a new company, and it was orientation, and I had been speaking throughout most of the day, and then I went to speak just to say something, and I started to stutter, and I was like, and then the teacher, she laughed, and I was like, oh crap, and then she laughed, but and she was like, Ian, she felt horrible, because she goes, just as normal, just with like normal interaction, she did not know that I was a person who stuttered. I had been talking fine. This was the first time we had met. So I internalized it. I was like, oh no, and that, that just kind of, it can reinforce the actual stutter. So I was feeling, pretty bad. I was like, oh man, this sucks the first day. But, we went to break, and we went to lunch, and she pulled me inside, and she was like, Ian, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I just, laughed. Like, I thought you were just joking. And I was like, it's cool, it's cool. I know you meant, no harm from it. And I think, sometimes
Yeah.
People just get uncomfortable and it's an automatic reaction, you know.
Half the time people don't know how to react.
Yeah.
So regardless, like, I can understand from your perspective because you're like, I don't know. Is it better for you to laugh? Is it better for you to acknowledge it? Is it better for you to not acknowledge it? And so it's like, I can understand that perspective as well.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you know, it's these things happen. Try not to
Yeah, don't let it.
take it too personal and move on, you know.
Yeah.
Or like if someone's, you know, was like being a jerk, like they were to Gavin, and you know, like story he told me, it's like, you know, don't like dwell on it. But again, it's like what they say, eye contact, you know, is important. It's just like you would do with anyone else. It's just a sign of respect.
Okay. Well, yeah, well, that seems to be it. And I think I realized I kind of talk better without the microphone. So I won't use it anymore. Now, for every NSA meeting that we have, well, we started with welcoming words and we ended with the closing words. And since we reached the end of the meeting, here are the closing words. Okay. May the spirit we have shared tonight help our speech in the coming weeks. Until we meet again, may we go forth gladly in the speaking situations without force or struggle, accepting ourselves regardless of our fluency, and listening always to the music of our voices. We are not alone, and together we are strong, Army strong. And with that, that concludes our meeting. And we thank all of you for coming out again and to listen to us. And if you have any questions or whatnot, you come talk to us afterwards. But other than that, you guys have a safe night home. And yeah, goodbye.